The vast majority of construction companies, residential construction companies here in the U.S. are like one person operations. They don't have any employees. I might butcher the statistic, but I think it was something like close to 90% of all construction firms in the U.S. are just no employees, just one owner. I would say a very large portion of our customers, almost half of all our customers, come from word of mouth. So first of all, like it's as I mentioned, it's getting into the product and just trying it for yourself is kind of how we try to get people in the door. And then so being very inbound product led is sort of what that approach is. But yeah, a shocking amount of people are just coming to us word of mouth. And I think it's because there's this thing, and you'd probably imagine, a couple of guys in construction, each of them run their businesses, and they're catching up and they're like, yo, check this out. Not going to believe what this thing can do. I think material science is going to be a really exciting space and technology in the future. And I really want to see that get into construction, and I want to see that get into people's homes, and I want to see that drive down the cost of housing. I think it'd be so, so, so incredible.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Bricks and Bytes podcast, where we dive into construction and AEC technology. Before we get started though, if you're a startup founder or operator responsible for innovation in your company, or you want a deeper, more insightful look into technology in AEC, you won't want to miss our newsletter. From deep dives into particular technologies such as AI, robotics, design, software, and so on. Hot takes from investors betting big in AEC technology, and advice on building tech companies, including the stories and takeaways of the most successful AEC technology founders. Head over to www.bricks-bytes.com and sign up today to get this exclusive material straight to your inbox. And now for the episode. In construction, precision matters. Every budget line, every schedule, every document. But too often, project data is scattered across tools and departments, creating risky silos. That's where ArcDesk comes in. ArcDesk is the all-in-one construction management platform designed to connect your entire project operation, from opportunity through to tender, all the way to handover. With real-time dashboards, cost control, scheduling, procurement, and document management in one place, ArcDesk gives you complete visibility and control. Trusted by contractors, subcontractors, and asset owners worldwide, ArcDesk has powered landmark projects from shopping centers to Europe's tallest buildings. If you're ready to reduce risk, protect your margins, and deliver projects with confidence, discover ArcDesk today. Visit arcdesk.com, that's ARCH desk.com, and see how leading firms are building smarter with ArcDesk. Major construction projects are complex, and delivery leaders know that things rarely go to plan. The problem is that most teams don't see what's slipping or why until it's too late. The best construction leaders know that in order to deliver on schedule, everyone needs to be planning together, committing to targets, and tracking performance every day. By bringing look-aheads, weekly work plans, visual staging diagrams, and daily activity briefings into one multiplayer platform, Afex gives the world's leading projects a single place to plan and coordinate their work. Join the largest contractors across Europe, the UK, Asia, Australia, and New Zealand. Learn more at afex.co. That's APHEX.co.
This Dmitry Alexin from Handoff. So how long have we been trying to schedule this for? Yeah, good to see you, Owen. Yeah, we've been back and forth trying to I think find some time for a while now. A few
I think
months.
it was May or something, maybe even March. But here we are.
You're hard to you're hard to get on. You're hard to get a slot on your show.
If only, hey. Cool. All right, Dmitry. So, yeah, tell us, what do you do?
I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Handoff. Handoff is essentially an AI agent for residential construction companies. It helps them run their businesses, automate the back office, create cost estimates. It's kind of really where we started, and really I think perfected that part of the flow, but also allows them to develop all kinds of construction documents like change orders, scopes of work, subcontractor bid invitations, like all these things. We help to automate with AI, connect to their favorite supplier, help them process payments, issue consumer loans. So kind of think of it as like an end-to-end AI automation platform, AI agent for these residential construction firms.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I can already see the value straight away, having worked in that field for some time, because these people, yeah, they have the businesses, but they got no time to really run a business. They're running everything that goes on day to day to satisfy their customers, deliver the product. But the business operations side of things is non-existent for most of them, and they're just getting by.
Yeah, the vast majority of construction companies, residential construction companies here in the U.S. are like one person operations. They don't have any employees. I think, I might butcher the statistic, but I think it was something like close to 90% of all construction firms in the U.S. are just no employees, just one owner. So
Wow.
if you're just one owner, you're running everything. You really can't. You don't have the time to do any of the back office stuff, right? Because your revenue comes from you actually building things, not from you doing the paperwork.
100%. And maybe we'll get into why well, maybe you just gave some of it away as to why decided to target those people, but very similar um, distribution in the UK as well. Majority of construction businesses will be like sole trader to very small number of employees. So we'll get there. Are you from a technical background?
Yeah, I've been a data scientist my whole career. Actually, had an interesting start. I was working as an economist for the IMF, doing GDP forecasting for West African countries
Wow.
during the Ebola pandemic. Very random,
So
but it
random.
was an amazing. It was an amazing experience. I got a chance to travel to some great countries, West Africa. And then I worked for a hedge fund as a quant for a little bit. Did business school, and then I led a machine learning team for a company called Cloud Kitchens after that, which was Travis Kalanick's new company he started after Uber. So definitely very close to data science, machine learning my whole career. Always loved it, and it was really cool to see kind of the industry, the space go through different phases over the last decade plus. And so yeah, I think at Handoff I do apply a lot of that in my day to day. Not as much hands on keyboard. Every now and then I get a chance to do that, but the technical background definitely helps.
Yeah, what did you experience, or what surprised you when you were moving from like organizations like IMF and then through to it was the Cloud Kitchens you mentioned? I don't know too much
Yeah,
about that
yeah,
business, but it sounds construction related to do with kitchens.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, how
So
is it moving from like those industries where maybe the data is a little bit cleaner, and obviously with Cloud Kitchens, it was set up from day one to have a good data strategy in place. But you're now in construction where the data is absolutely everywhere, here, there, and everywhere. Like, how much of a shock was that to you? And do you have any thoughts, revelations around that?
yeah, it's a big question. Do you mind if I unpack a couple of
Go
parts of
for
it
it.
here? So first of all, just what is Cloud Kitchens? Travis actually did a lot of interviews about that recently, and essentially, what Cloud Kitchens does is that it converts these large commercial spaces into facilities for restaurants to operate food delivery hubs. So if you're a restaurant, I can have a this smaller kitchen out of which you can satisfy your food delivery
Oh,
demand and try different brands.
the name
And so
makes
what we
sense
would
now.
do, yeah, exactly. The
Yeah.
concept is also called dark kitchens, I think, in sort of more broader
Mm-hmm.
term.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we would do is we would go and buy these large facilities, warehouse facilities, and then we would build out a whole bunch of kitchens so these restaurants can operate out of them. And so it was, yeah, I was very much deep in the weeds of real estate acquisition process, site selection, and construction. And construction is the one that really I think inspired me the most. And you think that it's a tech company, we have a lot of data. You'd be surprised. IMF actually, IMF is obviously a very slow moving organization. If you're somebody who's entrepreneurial, it's very difficult to um, to adjust to that pace. And it's not a place where you're supposed to be taking a lot of risk. It's the place to actually do the opposite. But when you're in an early stage company, the pace is very different. Cloud Kitchens was super fast paced, and I really enjoyed it. But data at IMF is incredible. You have detailed information about every single economy, all the balance of payments and their GDP sort of components. When it comes to construction data, there's at least I don't. I think maybe there's more data today in construction, but when it comes to construction data and working at cloud kitchens, there wasn't any data whatsoever. In fact, that was exactly why we started the company. And initially, our name was OneBuild. uh, what we did is, so what we did at Cloud Kitchens, we tried to understand, how can we budget out these large capital expenditures, these, kitchen facilities. And then I tried to find some data to help me predict what something should cost. What should we budget? What should be the cost estimate?
Hmm.
And literally, the only thing that I could find, and it's been a few years since then, but the only thing that I could find was a book, like an actual physical cost catalog. That's what they
Yeah.
call them. And I was like, wait, hold on a second. Like, there's no API, there's no plaid for construction cost data. Like, something is off. And but then my team, they came from backgrounds at Tesla and Apple, building facilities there. Um, and I would imagine that, these are like some very tech forward companies that maybe they figured out something about their construction data, but they were like, no, 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 man, like, this is the
You just
book.
get the
Like, you
book.
just you
Yeah,
just
the book.
you just
By the
use
way,
you just use the book.
we have one in the UK here. It's called Spons, Spons. It's like a pricing book that, supposedly architects use. I don't know if you've ever seen one of these things, but they are like
Oh yeah.
ginormous. And me and my background coming from like the quantities framework, which is a lot of estimating and costing. Whenever we looked at the cost in these things, they were so inaccurate. Like, we'd look and be like, I have no idea where they even got this data from.
It's crazy. You are a quantity surveyor? I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's my professional
Oh
background.
wow. So this is near and dear to your heart then.
Yeah, exactly. This solution is like exactly probably what, well, your solution is exactly what I don't think, maybe on a slightly larger scale of what we've done. I know you were targeting more of the like what do you say, the longer tail of the industry. Maybe there's an opening for you in the more enterprisey world as well. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out in this interview. But yeah. So where were you, man? When
So
I needed you.
so yeah, that was the thing, man. Like, I mean, I was like, how could you run a $2 trillion segment of an economy basically with no data, right? Operating off of a book. Of course, there are other ways through cost estimates, just based on experience and past jobs, and we're doing a lot of manual research. But the insight was like, well, at first it sucks that there is a book. The company that publishes this book is like basically like $1 billion company, by the way. So we're like, okay, if we just do a little bit better than a book, then maybe we can do something impactful here. And so what we realized we need to do is like, hey, let's just create the first real time API for construction prices, so that people like us, construction firms, could actually just query that data and then figure out what things cost. And that's what we did. We built the first essentially real time API for construction. We really focused specifically on residential construction. I'm happy to speak more about why we did that. And so we kind of we replaced the book, and so that was the first kind of act, the first product that we built. But the goal was always, well, if we had all this data, what would we do with it? If you could perfectly say, this is what something costs to build and construction, what would you do with that? And we realized that, actually quite a lot, because you can, once you have that data, the world is your oyster in terms of your ability to train machine learning models on top of that data. And that's exactly what we did. We applied a lot of that data to then build what is now Handoff. Handoff is trained on all that pricing data that we've aggregated along the way. And it's also trained on thousands of projects we actually did by hand in the beginning. We just worked as quantity surveyors, cost estimators ourselves
Oh
for like the
yeah.
first 2 years.
Hmm.
Because we're like, all right, well, we can't just collect data. You have to also make that data meaningful and apply that to real projects. And so we did that too. And so kind of all of that combined coming together, this is what Handoff became. And sort of the AI product that we ended up building is built on top of all of that insight and all the data that we collect along the way, which is really cool because it's very specific to construction, which is not what traditionally LLMs are today. They're very much broad, broad interest, not construction specific.
Yeah, I actually think that getting this data from, did you mention the sources? Sorry, maybe I missed it. Of wait, like the data that's in your platform, is it from like the actual people that are like how far up the food chain? I suppose is the data accumulated? Is it people selling the materials, manufacturing materials?
Yeah, a few ways. So as I said, first the foundation of all of that data is the kind of the logic of how do you organize that data, right? Because how do you even know what is important to a construction company? That is based on all of these thousands of estimates we've done ourselves, and takeoffs and the estimates themselves. Work directly with contractors to develop that, and then from that we kind of formulated, what we call like a taxonomy, right? So this sort of how do you organize all that information, so it makes sense. And then we went ahead and we partnered with some amazing construction suppliers that are popular, but with the contractors here in the U.S. Lowe's and Home Depot are the two big ones that integrate with us, and
Hmm.
that enables us to now sort of have this real time view into store inventories and material pricing. We also have had been very lucky to partner with materials manufacturers, Masco Corporation, a very large manufacturer of construction materials like Behr Paint, Delta Faucet,
Hmm.
some of the brands that are under Masco. They're also our investors, so that allows us to better understand, how can we, if we're satisfying the needs for for a painting project, how do we make sure we apply the right paint and we do it with the logic of what like a Behr Paint associate would recommend, right? So that expertise is embedded into our product too. So on the material side, so you kind of have the taxonomy and how do you organize the data. Then you have the pricing component, and then we do a lot of market surveys, and we have our own ways of doing our research about other things like labor pricing, and we build our own internal pricing index for labor and kind of understand what different types of trades, what the hourly rates are for each of those trades across different sort of levels of seniority. And so all of that combines together, with our ML models, our classifiers, to now produce these estimates for contractors.
Yeah. Okay. A few things come to mind. I need to think about how else is. So, you obviously you started as one build, and then you changed. You changed. We can get into like where the name was changed to Handoff, which it is now. But that can come later. But what I want to know is you have a heavy focus on estimating. But when we first and I mean you obviously expand amongst like away from just estimating and run the operating system of a contract of a builder. Um, why d- why did you initially tackle estimating? Was this like a strategic decision just to like get in like the we call it the wedge, right, in this industry, into these people's businesses and then expand outwards?
Yeah, it's I guess it's an interesting question. Um, there was definitely a little bit of insight in terms of, we feel like if we can solve the estimating component, it's the first step for, pretty much the rest of the project. And so once you kind of have that data, you know what the contractor needs to buy in terms of materials or subcontractors they need to find, or the schedule, that they need to plan out. So a lot of the downstream of the project flows through it. I think that was very exciting from the very beginning, and just honestly, being totally, truthfully speaking, we got very obsessed with that. And I think to kind of like to a dramatic degree, because we've been working on the company for a few years now. We officially started in 2019, and we did our Y Combinator in 2020. So we've been at it for a while, and we just were obsessed with cost estimating. Just this weird, this weird obsession, because I think we believe that this is the unlock for a lot of the other things that we can then do. What's
Mm,
also nice about estimating is that this is the thing that majority of contractors really dislike. And estimating is how they make money, right? Because the quicker they quote something, the quicker they bid on a job, the more likely they win that job. But to do it accurately takes a lot of time. And if you don't do it accurately, there's a lot of risk, right? You can lose money on this. So if you try to speed up that process without having tools like Handoff to help you do that, you can get in some trouble. And so it's very popular with contractors because of that, because it's such a big bottleneck for them, the estimating part of their jobs. And it's like so unlike anything else that they have to do in their jobs. It's very computationally intensive. You have to sit down, do online research. Like if you're somebody who runs a construction company, you're not in that business because you like doing online research. Like that's not the reason why, you started this business. And
Mm,
so we just get a chance to take off something off your plate that is mission critical, is in the flow of your
mm,
revenue, and something you just really, really do not like doing. And it takes a lot of your time. So
mm.
that's another thing about estimating that we found to be very cool is that it helps. Um, it really helps a lot of companies, and so it creates a lot of momentum for us.
Yeah, that's very cool. I like it. I think when you were speaking, it reminded me of some experiences I had where, when working with some of these smaller people, companies, they would uh, outsource their estimating to someone else. They would not even look at the figure themselves and just like send it to the client and be like, "This is our price." So I don't know how that relates to what you're saying, but I think maybe people will find that interesting that people have such a disregard for estimating within their businesses that like the less of it they can do, the absolute bet, even in as much as like the risk that they're taking, someone else just pricing it for them and then them just like post boxing it, not even looking, just going, that's my cost. I'll build it for you for that. Probably shows that like maybe your inclination to the obsession around the problem was a good one.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's really wild. And I mean, for commercial, we don't deal with commercial, but for commercial, it can take weeks and months to really put together an estimate. It's can be very, very time consuming. For residential, it's a little bit faster and a little bit, simpler in terms of projects. But I'd say the need is also higher because, there's no quantity surveyors, there's no estimators. There's not as many of those in residential construction companies. Like, as I said, when we started the conversation, the vast majority of them is just one person doing everything. So, and they really cannot afford to hire somebody to do that job for them. Um, and the outsource estimating it's actually how we started. We were those guys on the other side, getting your bid
Hmm.
done for you. We would hope that our customers validate the bids before sending it. We did put a lot of effort into making sure that they're accurate. I think people usually really like to be prepared. But now that you said that they would just like send it along, I was like, wow, some of these jobs are like multi-million-dollar jobs.
Yeah, like yeah, people just don't want to do it. How like what I found interesting in my experience was how granular and also how not so granular, more zoomed out you can go with this estimating world. Some people, how what people usually do when they're costing things is here in the UK is like they will do it very granularly, like price up each of the line items that are required in a project. And then they'll always take like a zoomed out view and be like, that equates to like pound per you have in the US, mostly pound per square foot, in the UK is pound per square meter. So my question is, are you building a data repository around the average costs and like typical costs at a more of a holistic and broader level so people can understand? I don't know. Do you find that even having that data is useful or not so?
Yeah, I mean, our system setup is quite complex, and it uses a variety of different data points. You know, um, Kind of the the sort of the broader benchmark indices and the unit cost based pricing. What we find is that for our customers to trust what we deliver, is it has to be based on unit costs, so meaning line by line. So we have to know exactly, how much this tile is going to cost, how much this 2x4 is going to cost, how much this hour of labor is going to cost. And we give them a full breakdown for every single trade, every single part of the scope of that job. And if you're doing a remodeling job, this can get quite complex. If you're doing new home construction, this can get quite complex. But we just break it down to the studs. And our customers often say like, "Wow, like you've reminded me of things that I would have not thought." Like, and we just
Mm.
account for even like boxes of nails, right? That they're going to need, like all these consumables that you just don't really price out when you think about a job, but they add up. And it can influence your margins as a result. So we do start with the unit cost, and we really strive to be as extremely accurate based on information that we get as we can. But then we do also cross validate it to prior jobs of that customer. What the market is
Mm-mm-mm.
actually like. Are we doing a high end job? Are we doing an economy kind of grade job? So we want to make sure that it's priced according to sort of the type of a project as well. And so we have all these other sort of filters and benchmarks that kind of help us to go bottoms up to make sure that it's extremely detailed, because this is how our customers trust us. And then we also can go top down to then validate that, like, okay, as a whole, are the assumptions correct? And I think that really replicates a lot of what any contractor would do or a cost estimator would do. They'll kind of try to kind of benchmark both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. No, sounds good. And one other point around this estimating thing, just drawing from my own experience again, do you find that people then take these estimates and use them as their like I don't know if your system breaks it down in as much as like labor hours to undertake a certain element of work, like install a drywall per meter, say. Do you have like a do you give people the exact labor hours required, and then to follow on to that, do people then use that as their sort of to pay people again, what we call it in the UK is price work, where you would say you give people like, yeah, like you've got £300 to put this up, rather than saying like you're on day work rate at whatever your cost is per day.
Yeah, we definitely do. We price out materials, based on, let's say sheets of drywall. We'll give you like a pretty accurate, approximate number of sheets you're going to need for that job. Um, and then for the labor hours, it's the same thing. We have all
Hmm.
kinds of ways to um, understand, based on what it is that you're working, how many labor hours are you going to need, right? And how complex that job is, right? Let's say if you're removing wallpaper, are we talking about a stick and peel wallpaper, brand
Hmm.
new, brand new construction, or we're talking about wallpaper from like 1930s. So we, based on photos that you upload or the descriptions you provide, you can upload videos as well, and then we will kind of gauge, okay, what kind of job this is, and then we would be able to then estimate the number of labor hours that are required for that specific type of job. And then what our customers do, they use that information to bid out work, to plan, if they self-perform, they plan, schedule around that. You can use it for job costing, right? To just make sure that, you're kind of, you're profitable, and you're allocating your costs, your actuals according to, what was in that estimate. So there's there's different many use cases for that. And for the materials, a lot of our customers can generate a bill of materials. You can kind of
Mm.
make a shopping list. Just you literally just, it's a chat, right? So you just talk to Handoff and you say, this is what I need. You could say, hey, I need to give a list of materials to my foreman. Can you do that? And so then Handoff will put together your shopping list. You can check off boxes, or you can
Wow.
email that to your pro desk rep, at your favorite supplier, and then they would fulfill the order for you as well.
Was going to be my exact next question. Does this like much easier does procurement become after the costs have been estimated? Is the estimating interface a chat function as well for people when they're like trying to I'm actually amazed if it is.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And it's a free trial, so you can always go ahead and play with
Mm,
it. If you're bored and you want to talk to somebody, you you want to talk to Handoff, your friendly
nice.
construction assistant, always available. But essentially, this is what our belief is that given that these construction companies are very strapped for human resources, especially in areas like office work and assistance work. Now, as an owner of a construction company, you have two paths. You can buy a piece of software, and there's all kinds of sort of traditional SaaS products out there for construction, and many of them are quite good. But at the end of the day, you have to go and sit down. You have to operate that software. You have to type things out. You got to click on boxes. Yeah, and a lot of it is like retyping the same thing over and over, right? Like a scope of work,
Mm,
then becomes an estimate. An estimate becomes, your bill of materials or your proposal to the client, right, or your work order. It's the same stuff, right? It's a lot of it is kind of repeatable, but you have to like retype it all the time. So, as an owner of a small construction company, you really don't have the time to do that. You don't have the patience to do that. So what our value proposition to them is, well, we give you both. We give you software and we give you an assistant to run that software. And if you want to just press the buttons yourself, you actually can do all of that as well on Handoff, like you would in another product. But the main thing is there's a chat. You can speak to it. Like you can literally hit record and then just have a conversation. Like, maybe you're in your truck and you're going between jobs, very, very common. Um, or you can just type it out and then Handoff will guide you through your project. It will ask you questions, as you're trying to prepare a project description. It will be like, hey, actually, what we need to do is, we need to clarify, some of this information, right? Even doing a slab on grade or, doing footings, like what's the, what kind of foundation I'm trying to do here. So those are the types of questions that Handoff will ask you to make sure that the project estimate is as accurate as possible, but also helps you as a contractor think through it. And then there's a lot of back and forth. And you can actually, as an agent, this whole sort of AI agent paradigm, right? As an agent, you're supposed to be able to perform multiple tasks. So you can just narrate, oh, okay, here's some files, make me a scope of work, turn that into an estimate, turn that into a proposal, send the proposal to John, and then send, a 10% deposit invoice as well, right? And then Handoff will go and execute all these steps one by one,
Beautiful.
and then just do it on your behalf, like you would with an assistant. And then at moments where Handoff is going to check in with you to make sure that the kind of the output is exactly what you're looking for, and it will also do that. So it kind of stops at these crucial moments along that user journey.
I love it. I can see like this erasing so many pain points for people. Having experienced it so much in my past. Uh, okay, your points lead me nicely onto this next point about the people are super busy that you're targeting. And whilst you're making their life easier, you still need to convince them that you are making their life easier. One. And two, you are still adding what they might perceive and what these people in particular perceive as like more steps in the process. So I suppose half of it is just showing them how the product works, because based on what you described, it's taking a lot of things away. But I can still imagine there's resistance to people to want you to to let you speak to them in the first place and then show them. So what's your thinking and strategy around that?
Yeah, we find that people are busy, and so we try to not force them into this, maybe more traditional sort of enterprise sales process where like you can't even see a product, right? Before you sign up for a demo. And then if you sign up for a demo, then you can't even use it until you pay for it, right? Some companies do that, and I think it's kind of crazy. So we took a whole other approach. I would say we're an entirely product led business. So and we want to lead with value. So, eh, as a contractor, I come to you and I'll say, hey, I have this beautiful AI product that's going to do your estimates. You're gonna, I don't know if you can like beep things out on this podcast, but they'll be like, no way. In the mildest, terms, you'd say that. The contractor would probably be kind of skeptical because AI is still kind of propagating for that industry. But we just say, hey, like, don't take our word for it. Here's an app, sign up, it's free. And then within 30 seconds, you'll get your first estimate. And then people do that. And in fact, a lot of them, I think, and all of them are genuinely excited. They're like, I really need this. Estimating is a pain. But a lot of them probably also do that because they are skeptical, right? And they kind of want to just play with it and see what actually happens. And so they sign up, they get a trial, and within 30 seconds, they get the estimate. They're like, no way, I can't believe this actually worked. And then off of that estimate, they then go ahead and then try it on their past jobs. Those land, within, a few percentage points, single digit percentage points usually of what they've done in the past. And then it just kind of draws you in. And then they, I think, keep on working with Handoff and seeing that it can create a lot of value for their business. And as they communicate with the chat agent as well, they discover all these other use cases that are available to them. So it's a kind of like leading with the value, not wasting people's time is something that we really believe in, and I think that our customers also appreciate the fact that, we walk the walk. We're not just talking the talk.
Hey listeners, I want to take a quick break to remind you about the Bricks and Bytes newsletter. If you're interested in learning about the technology shaping the future of construction, you won't want to miss the valuable insights we share each week. To get this exclusive content delivered straight to your inbox, head over to www.bricks-bytes.com and sign up today. Link is in the show notes. Back to the show. Okay, Dmitry. So yeah, how do you? So you're targeting. Can I use a better term than long tail? Someone said this to me once, and I haven't stopped using it since. First off, but if you know what it means, then yeah, where are you finding these people? Because I guess mostly we're speaking to people who are targeting like the enterprise side of construction. So it'd be very interesting to hear your go-to-market thinking about where you go to these people, probably more consumery, and how that works.
Yeah, we definitely get inspired by what some consumer businesses do in terms of their go-to-market as well. I would say a very large portion of our customers, almost half of all our customers, come from word of mouth. So first of all, like it's because I mentioned, it's getting into the product and just trying it for yourself is kind of how we try to get people in the door, and then so being very inbound product led is sort of what that approach is. But yeah, a shocking amount of people are just coming to us word of mouth, and I think it's because there's this thing, and you'd probably imagine, couple of guys in construction, each of them run their businesses, and they're catching up, and they're like, yo, check this out. Not gonna believe what this thing can do. And so a lot of our customers go to us because of that. And so we again lead with value, and we really focus on quality, and we've been working on making sure that what we produce is of the highest quality possible, having done this for so many years. So good amount of that, there's good amount of referrals. We're very active in social media as well, and we have a great social media manager. I should give him a shout out here, and he's been killing it. We have great content creators. So that's kind of all of that adds up. I think that resonates with the target audience. Again, residential contractors don't like being sold to. I don't think anybody likes being sold to, but I think it's more established, more common in these more enterprise environments. With the residential contractors, you kind of just want to meet them where they are, and you want to speak to them as as like a normal person to person. And as far as where they are, they might be on a roof, and if you tell them like, hey, we need to go and do this demo right now, right? They're just it's really hard to do a demo while you're on a roof. And so we try to just, try to kind of let them explore the product on their own, get in there by a recommendation from their friend, experience value as quickly as possible. So these are all the tenets that we try to bring into kind of the way that we approach our customers.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. What is the most effective channel, both online and offline, that you found?
It's been all online. I would say, a lot of our customers are very active on social media, so we do spend a lot of time there.
Mm-hmm. And you do any offline, like trade shows, ads in magazines?
Not yet. Maybe we should try it. One thing that we want to do is, bringing back to that like cost book example, or like maybe we should just like have like a free cost book or something and just like send it to everybody. But then every page has a QR code, and it says something along the lines of why you're reading this cost book. Just use Handoff instead. Maybe this should be like a marketing snail mail marketing campaign we should try.
Yeah, yeah, send like a free cost book. That's a good idea. Like I have to print a QR code on every corner, or just like white out all the pages and just put the QR code in the middle. Yeah, just still the front and back cover, and just.
That's right.
Nice.
That's right. Yeah. Maybe we should do that. Yeah. Don't burn this cost book.
Yeah, nice. Interesting. Okay, maybe we should rewind a little bit, and we teased upon this earlier. Why did you, so when you were coming up with the idea of Handoff, like, why did you decide that you were going to go after the smaller residential contractor sector versus the large enterprise?
You know, it kind of, in the beginning we did everything. We did commercial, we did residential. We just really found that the need is so much more in residential. And in commercial, you still have cost estimators, right? And at the end of the day, you have to convince them that you can make them more efficient. And I think it's a different value proposition versus if you go to an owner that doesn't have a cost estimator, you tell them like, hey, I'm going to give you a cost estimator, and it's going to be 24/7, and it's going to be very inexpensive. It's a very, very different value prop. I also feel that selling into residential construction comes with a different vibe. Um, you know, so people who are in residential construction, they started off in the trades, maybe they started off doing something totally different, but they got into it because of a lot of times is because of the passion that they have for crafting something for the client. And I think it's so cool. I think it's so cool that those folks out there, they really care about their craft and the quality of their work, and they care about the design of the space, and they kind of have to do everything themselves, right? For most cases in residential, and so I love that feeling of being able to help these folks who are small businesses trying to make it on their own, entrepreneurs in their own right. And I would say a lot of them are more talented entrepreneurs than many people that that are in tech. Uh, just they operate at a different scale.
Mm-hmm.
And just love the feeling of that. And I also love the fact that on the other side of that, there is another person. There's a family. There's a family who is remodeling their kitchen, and they're thinking about how they're going to gather there with their kids, and how they're going to spend uh, mornings having breakfast, and evenings having dinner together and hosting their guests. And it's just so cool, just really so cool. And I think that in commercial construction, I think you can see some really big players. You can see Procore, of course, that have been able to Service Titan, a few others. It just doesn't have that personal element that I think gets our team really excited otherwise. And so we found a residential construction, much bigger need, much more exciting for us, at least market to work with, and we just really love it. And it's controversial. Like not a lot of folks believe that this is a good market to go after. We tend to disagree, of course. We feel like it's an incredible market to go after if you know what you're doing. And so we're really sticking to that. We don't have any plans to think about commercial construction as of now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know. Have you used the term agent since we started recording?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We talked. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think I dropped. You have to. It's an AI company. You have to drop the word agent. In the conversation sporadically.
Fair enough. Yeah, because I was gonna say you haven't like screamed about it, which is a good thing, by the way. It's clearly like the product in itself, whether it uses agents or not, is providing the value that people want, right? I'm still curious, like as it's a hot topic right now. Do you use agents within the software, and if so, what for?
Yeah, I mean the whole our software paradigm is centered around an agent, centered around the chat interface, and that chat interface is something that you can delegate tasks to. It can be a whole bunch of tasks all at once, and it will go ahead and just do that work for you, right? And I think that's the new paradigm for software. I think it's becoming very established. You can already see that, the early indicators of that with obviously products like Cursor. Everybody wants to be Cursor for X.
Hmm.
And I do think that there's something to it at the end of the day, because, like I was saying, there's two ways you can use software, right? You can use software by doing the work yourself, or you can use software by giving some delegating that work to somebody else that then uses the software. So yeah, our agent is kind of the core of the product experience. And I think contractors prefer that because they get a chance to talk natural language instead of having to figure out, well, what are all these buttons I have to click. And they can skip that whole 2-week long onboarding process where they have to be in a classrooms,
Mm-hmm.
having taking notes, participating in lectures. So you just talk to the agent, and the agent will guide you through the experience instead. I think it's much better. much better experience for contractors.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. I think the usage of any technology is a problem. So, and even more so, the people you're targeting. So, if you've got something that can guide them through it, then voila.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. This is, and your construction, technology podcast. I'm sure the question of software adoption comes up probably pretty frequently, right?
Hmm.
And it's probably both from the standpoint of like, well, do I need software? And okay, fine, I need software. How do I use software? Right? In this case, the how do I use the software part is much easier when you have an AI agent because again, you have a question about how to use this, cool, just ask the AI agent and it will explain it to you, or it will just better yet do the thing for you instead. And so it's from the adoption standpoint. I think for the residential space where people are busy, people don't want to be in classroom. I think it's a really great approach.
Hmm. What are some things that you've tried that haven't worked out?
Mm, well, so many.
Yeah, of course.
We run experiments all the time. Our
Mhm.
company, we very much are in the mindset of the only thing that distinguishes, the main thing that distinguishes you from, success between failure is how to be successful, right? What's the knowledge to succeed? Unless it's prohibited by laws of physics, you could probably figure it out. And so, how do you obtain that knowledge is by trying things and seeing if they're going to work, especially if you're building something new. And we have really, I think, internalized that mindset. And so, we constantly try new things. We constantly run experiments. Sometimes they work out. Sometimes they don't work out. And but in either case, like you either win or you learn. So that's the way to approach that. And then that knowledge compounds, and then the bridge between failure and success, becomes much clearer. I think in terms of like something that's more specific, um, we tried going into, we tried doing the enterprise sales thing in the early days for the small business market. And we just realized that that really failed miserably. Um, there are a few companies that are doing that. I don't know how they do that because just getting a contractor to show up on a demo is like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do, sometimes they show up. It's
Yeah.
not all every contractor. But their lives are so unpredictable. And hey, like maybe they got pulled into something else and they gotta go inside. And so it's not like selling to desk workers. And the enterprise sales model is really centered around the idea of selling to a desk worker, a person with a calendar, and they show up to the meetings in the calendar. It's not really built well for the small business market. And so we had to really reconsider our approach to be more centered around the product and leading with the product value instead. And I think that really helped us out.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it sounds like you had a few times where, well, more than a few times where people just wouldn't show for demos, as frustrating as it was.
Yeah, no, that's and I think even the same. I mean, okay, this has really changed, but in the beginning when we just started, pre-COVID, um, something like going on a Zoom call as a contractor, especially a residential contractor, was just like, what? Like,
Yeah,
it's a video conference? What? I'm not doing that.
yeah. I didn't even tell you from my professional experience. Yeah, like I remember I had one video call. Literally, I can only remember one in the whole pre-COVID era, which from my career was like something like 2012 to say 2020. I honestly only ever remember having one video where it was like a specific Zoom. I remember hearing the adverts for Zoom when I was driving in the car. Like, what the hell is this thing? Like, why are they advertising? And then, boom, life was so different after that.
That's right. Yeah, 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 yeah. It really changed. I mean, I think as far as the tech adoption, COVID has really accelerated that in construction.
Yeah,
And so in the beginning, I mean, forget about Zoom. Like we had to teach people how to use email, uh,
yeah.
or calendar for that matter. So that has really changed. I think a lot of contractors that we work with, they actually teach us more about tech. A lot of them use all kinds of new cool tech gadgets like drones, satellite imagery. It has changed a lot, and there's definitely a new generation of folks that are coming on board, and
Mm.
coming into construction, seeing an opportunity there. A lot of them are coming into residential actually. So they're not really coming into commercial because the barrier to entry in commercial obviously so much higher. But there's a lot of folks that are coming from jobs in marketing or jobs in accounting, and they're like, well, I want to start a company and I don't want to do a tech startup. Um, and they find that construction is a niche that really attracts them, especially the general contracting niche. And they end up bringing a lot of that professionalism with them from their last jobs. And so they're software first. They love technology. They want to use technology to be more efficient. They have iPads and Apple Watches, and like they really know what they're doing. And so it's really cool. And they teach us, quite often they teach us about
Mm.
technology along the way. Like LiDAR scans is like is like it's table stakes now. So like everybody uses LiDAR.
Hmm.
It's pretty shocking actually how popular that got.
Yeah, I
So
guess when it got to the iPhone, right? Everyone's like, we can just get this out of our pocket and do a LiDAR scan.
that's right. I think that's what happened. Yeah, I think that's what happened. So and so yeah, from that standpoint, it's gotten a lot better. But in the beginning, pre-COVID, construction tech and adoption were very, very challenging. I think right now is a really great time in terms of like contractors really being excited about adopting technology.
Mm. Yeah, very cool. Uh, so with the you obviously, yeah, you're a data man background, and obviously doing cool things with data now with the estimating, and I'm sure you're collecting a lot of other useful data. What do you see as like the longer term picture? Do you think there's an opportunity to bring Handoff into like not just an operating system, you didn't use that term, but for contractors, for residential smaller contractors, into like something totally maybe like very adjacent. I would go in as far as saying something like robotics. I don't know. Is there? Have you thought about this?
Would love that. I think it would be so cool. I think construction is in this very nascent early stage of digitization, and the opportunities are just so numerous. I think we want to be working on this company for many decades to come. We hope this can be a very, very long lasting company that kind of touches many different parts of construction, and probably still focused on residential, but who knows. What really excites me is I think being a partner to the contractor, being kind of this assistant to contractor, and then being able to recommend things to them that they might have not thought of otherwise.
Hmm.
And I think from that standpoint, I think the sky is the limit. And if we were able to tell them like, hey, you have this um, you know bricklaying part of your project that you're trying to price out, why don't you use a bricklaying robot, right?
Hmm.
And so I think it would be really cool. I think we'd love to partner with companies that have those kinds of things that
Mm.
they're working on. Robotics is super exciting. I think it's still early. I think it's going to be at least another few years until it has its own ChatGPT moment. uh, but it's inevitable. Like it's definitely going to be a part of our lives, and so we want to be able to help integrate that. I don't know if we'll be building robots ourselves anytime soon, but we definitely want to help to distribute that through our product. What also excites me in the future is we get a chance to understand what everything costs. What are the drivers of cost, and then the um, housing market in the United States is in a very challenging position right now. It's very difficult for especially young people to afford to buy homes. And I think we can do something over time where maybe we can find ways to drive that cost down. Sure, through robotics potentially, but who knows? Maybe material science can also be of assistance here. A lot of the materials we use today in construction, they haven't really changed. In over 100 years, the two by fours are two by fours. Or I heard that they're getting slimmer. That it's not exactly a two by four anymore. Um,
Like one
but
one
but but who
one point
knows?
seven five by 3.75.
Yeah.
Doesn't
So
quite
I don't know
ring.
if you saw. There's a photo. Like I think I should send you a photo. There's like a photo of the two by four through the years, and it's still
Ye-
called the two by four. But it keeps on getting smaller and
Maybe I've
smaller.
seen this actually. It rings a bell for sure.
So I guess it still works. So that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But like, well, how can we drive the cost down of that? I think material science is going to be a really exciting space and technology in the future, and I really want to see that get into construction, and I want to see that get into people's homes, and I want to see that drive down the cost of housing. I think it'd be so incredible if that happens.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, we just a couple questions maybe on the funding. So you've raised 25 million in total. Um, are all of your investors in the like construction, AEC, building materials, like this kind of home services niche?
I would say the majority of the capital came from firms that are generalist firms. They don't just invest in construction. We have some great partners that are construction specific, like Fundamental,
Mm-hmm.
Metaprop, which is kind of broadly prop tech. But I would say, our supporters come from generalist backgrounds. So we were very fortunate to work with all kinds of amazing firms like For Capital, early stage seed stage firm, Y Combinator, of course, Initialized Capital that led our seed round, and then Greycroft Capital that led our Series A. We also, we're lucky enough to work with other kind of folks that are industry insiders, like Masco, as I mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
Nemetschek as well, and so it's a mix. I think it's I think there's a lot of excitement in venture capital these days around the um, vertical software, from vertical AI. Obviously, construction, falls into that category. Home services falls into that category. Um, Service Titan has, I think, showed everybody, and Procore showed everybody that you can be a very successful company in the space.
Mm-hmm.
And so the interest by the generalist firms has been quite high.
Mm. Very cool. And in terms of Masco, they're like, would you say they're more strategic investors? Because it sounds like that I think you mentioned earlier that you use some of their data as well, and they're obviously they're servicing a similar field to who you are. So that was that I don't know if the right term is intentional. Was that part of the plan, or was that the thinking behind bringing someone like that on board?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we wanted to mix in our cap table with folks that are in the industry. Obviously, materials is a big part of that strategy. Masco have been extremely helpful to us in terms of helping us navigate, certain decisions that a contractor would do around purchasing their products. How they would select certain types of paint. How they think about budgeting out the amount of paint that they're going to need. Um, and that's on the bare paint side, and kind of working on similar types of discovery processes with other brands at Masco too. So yeah, it's been awesome. I do think that if you're a construction tech startup, I think it's not enough to just be. I have a whole I don't want to go on too long of a rant about it, but
Go for it.
um,
We got
it is
time.
it is it is it is counter. I think it is counterproductive to be in San Francisco if you're a construction
Mm,
tech
mm. I
founder
can see where this is
for the
going.
most part.
Yeah.
So, and you really want to mix things in. If you only work with kind of generalist venture capital firms, and you're kind of you know, um, sitting there in Cerebral Valley, or I don't know what's the last, like, that was the new name for kind of the AI sort of part of the SF.
Mhm.
You're gonna be very isolated from the reality of construction. I think if you're satisfying the demand for other tech companies, I think it's a fantastic place to be. If you're trying to work with these like real businesses, doing things with their hands, you may be better served by mixing in um, sort of the folks that help you along the way. And that is in terms of the investors that you select. And that's why we try to always bring in folks that are construction oriented or from the industry. And also in terms of the people who work for you, right? Like being able to hire folks from construction. And that's actually the reason why we just, like, as I said, the first 2 years of the company, we were just a cost estimating service. That's pretty much what we did. But because that allowed us to, you know, make sure we understand the problem and we have the right people in place who have come from backgrounds where they have solved a similar problem. And then finally, I think we're based out of Austin, and I really really enjoy being in Austin. We started the company in Mountain View, California, so just outside of San Francisco. And then we moved here to establish our headquarters because I think you get the chance to be a little bit outside of the intellectual bubble of San
Mm, mm,
Francisco,
mm.
and I think that gives you a way to think a little bit more clearly about your business. And then again, like I think probably if you're selling into tech companies, the benefits of being close to those tech companies probably overweights
Yes.
what I just said. But if you're not, if you're if you're selling into like construction or any other segment of the economy for that matter, you'd probably be better served by maybe considering not being in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, very insightful. Yeah, and I think by nature of construction, like the customer base is diverse, like spread out, right, geographically. So it doesn't typically lend itself to being in a place where
I
people are
think
primarily
Texas
buying tech.
I think Texas has the most construction companies in the U.S. I might be off. It's either Texas, California, or Florida. But I think based on the last time I looked at it, I think Texas might have been the first.
Mm.
And so there's some benefits to that, being in Texas.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course. Yeah, cool. Okay, maybe last question here then. What would you say to a technical founder like yourself coming into an industry, thinking that they could come in and fix it? I think we've all seen this tried multiple times with mixed success.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that you should have no ego. I think that's very important. I think that especially if you're a technical founder, you went to, maybe an Ivy League school, or maybe you worked for, one of the big tech firms in the past, you have, Y Combinator supporting you. It is very, very hard. It's very easy, rather. It's very easy to, I think, just get in your head um, and then not question, what it is that you do. I think, and when you work on a startup, every single day tests that, like tests your ego every single day, right? It's every single day something is not going to go exactly right. Something that you decided you end up discovering was a terrible idea. And especially in the early stages, that error rate is very high, right? Most of the things you do are going to be a miss probably, right? And it's just like, well, how quickly can you go through all of these early misses so that you can start to like get more hits? And it's like, well, if you don't let yourself learn from these things, if you don't acknowledge the fact that, like, hey, maybe I don't know, anything, maybe I don't know most things, um, it's going to be very hard to have a feedback loop that enables you to get really good at what you do. So not having an ego and it's like when you're a young person, it's so hard, I think, because you kind of run on that, like you fake it till you make it, right? Because that's kind of like all you got going on early on. But you kind of like as soon as you start a company, you kind of have to drop that. Maybe when you go out and you do fundraising, maybe you want to bring that, back in again. But outside of the fundraising process, you got to be as real and as close to the facts and as low ego as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Cool. Dimitri, are you guys running any initiatives you want to plug at the end here? Hiring, events, campaigns, so on and so forth. You take it. Take it away.
Yeah, 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 yeah. We are growing extremely fast. In both in terms of revenue and customers and construction volume that goes through our platform. And so, to support that growth, we are building a team. Like as I mentioned, we have our headquarters here in Austin, Texas. It's a beautiful place to be, and we're basically hiring for every role, right? Product, engineering, sales, marketing. We're building our team here. For folks that are overseas as well, we do have an office in Sao Paulo and we have an office in Buenos Aires, all in person, very much in person focused company. And so, we're hiring for roles in those hubs as well. So come join our team. And I think there's just so much that we can build together. We're at the cutting edge of both in terms of working with this new technology and in terms of satisfying this market that has been really traditionally underserved. We're innovating, I think, on every single part of what it means to build a business. Very experimental, as I mentioned. I think we have an incredible culture. Everybody's very sharp. Everybody's very ambitious. Anyways, if I could have one, I would say plug is, come join Handoff and let's build this company together and let's build the future of residential construction together.
Awesome, man. Dmitry, thank you so much.
Thank you.